Anxiety is a part of many developers' lives. In fact, if you go on Hacker News or Blind, you'll see many instances of this. Blind even has an entire section dedicated towards mental health. A lot of devs have anxiety because our jobs are technical, we work alone for most of the day, and we feel a lot of pressure. If you have anxiety as a programmer, you're not alone, and thankfully, there's two natural ways to fix it. Welcome back to The Healthy Coder, where we cover tips and tricks to make you into a healthier programmer. Now, the first tip we'll be covering is meditation. Meditation is a great way of helping with anxiety. I found this out when I had a tough dev project with a ton of crunch time. I needed something to help get through it, and so I searched on Hacker News actually and found this thread. It's amazing how many developers have problems with anxiety and are reaching out for help from other developers. I was glad they shared their experiences because it helped to know that I wasn't alone and that I could see how other people dealt with it. Maybe it's because of the nature of our job, where we give and take a lot of code, like in the open source world, but I've found that many developers share their life experiences on forums like Hacker News. And without those, I would have never found a path that worked for me. So how do you meditate? Well, it's actually pretty easy, but it does require consistent effort and dedication, just like this comment mentions. So how to meditate? Well, if you ask 10 people for how to meditate, you'll get 10 different answers. And that's because there's just a lot of different ways people meditate. Guided meditations like the form of Headspace and other apps that people use have become super popular, but I'm a big fan of the method that Naval Ravikant, who, if you haven't heard of him, is a famous investor and entrepreneur with great insights on Twitter, has. His method is to sit there for 60 minutes and do nothing. And then whatever comes into your mind as thoughts, let them pass through. And don't try to block or avoid any thoughts. He calls meditation in this form the art of doing nothing, which is funny because at least before using this method, I actually thought meditation was always something complex, like focusing on certain ideas or using breathing methods. But in fact, his method is very simple. And actually, his simplicity allows you to lose anxiety that you have. Because when you don't focus or think actively on anything, there's nothing to be anxious about. As programmers, we're constantly thinking about some solution to a problem, right? Or some technical challenge. It's like a background thread, except in our minds, where some train of thought is always running. And so by just doing nothing, the anxiety goes away. Now, for the exact details of his strategy, he says to meditate for 60 minutes and do it for at least 60 days in a row. His reasoning is that it takes time for your mind to relax. But realistically, that's a lot of work. I only do it for 30 minutes because 60 minutes is just a long time. And maybe it doesn't get all the benefits that a full hour would, but you certainly get positives just from a half hour at a time. And I also don't do it every day. I do it maybe 5 out of 7 days in the week. But again, even if that helps calm your mind a little bit, is a benefit. And it definitely does in the long term. And he has a full tweet thread about meditation, which I'll link to below in the description. But I'll point out just a couple of his points that I really like of his. The first one is you cannot fail at meditation. And it's important to remember that because meditation, at least from the outside, can seem very daunting. But there's really nothing to strive for. And if you don't feel pressure from it, your anxiety will lessen by default. And also, I like this one, the ability to be content and at peace by yourself is freedom, which, if you've ever felt like you had a ton on your mind before, is totally true. And the other cool part about this tweet thread is that people actually have replied to it with their results as a recap of how they felt after they started. And literally the first reply of this challenge, the guy says that it keeps his anxiety down. And you can go through the rest, but they all have very positive things to say about this method. And personally, having done it myself, I can totally vouch for all of them. So give it a try. Set a timer for 30 minutes a day, meditate each day for a week, and then see how you feel after those 7 days. I bet you'll feel a lot less internal pressure and stress afterward. But if you've used meditation before and you want something new to try the Wim Hof Breathing method. And as described by Wim Hof himself, master scientific breathing techniques that improve your energy level, detox your body, reduce stress, rebalance the nervous system, and strengthen your immune system. So it's basically a set of breathing techniques. And while he has multiple courses on his site, but you can pick up enough from free YouTube videos on YouTube if you want to use it. And you might have seen references to breathing exercises online in relation to helping people with stress or anxiety. And I was skeptical at first when I saw them and people referencing them, but it's amazing how much they work. The routine is guided, And so you go through a series of steps, either timing your breathing, changing your breathing in, or holding your breath, basically. And then, similar to meditation, it focuses you on the moment instead of what your anxiety is or what's causing it, especially since for some parts you're literally holding your breath. And so here's a couple of seconds of a video of one of the guided routines for reference.
Number 1, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Just go with the flow of the breath. In, out, in, out, in, out.
So as you can see, is very kind of mesmerizing as you're going through it, and your focus is totally on the breathing exercise. And from his website, here's a little explanation of why it helps actually alleviate your anxiety. So by breathing differently from your stomach and not your chest, you take deep breaths from your abdomen that is a calming stimulus, basically. And that lets your body know that things are fine and that there's no reason to be anxious. And this is actually a calming breathing technique, even outside of this Wim Hof method. But if you put your hand on your stomach, it should move in when you breathe in and then move out when you breathe out, instead of on your chest, versus what a lot of people do by default, which is they breathe through their chest, which is not helpful. So try it out right now. Put your hand on your chest and then take a breath how you normally would, in and out, and see if it moves. And if it moves, that means you need to focus more on breathing through your stomach, because that'll make you more calm. And these changes seem small, but they're actually big factors in how you feel. And by default, we just don't do enough of them. Like we breathe through our mouth by default instead of our chest, etc. And so by doing a breathing course like the Wim Hof method, it actually helps you learn how to make your body more calm, which makes you more calm. Now, the Wim Hof method actually has 2 other parts here, including one on cold baths and mind exercises, but I've only ever done the breathing ones, and I can vouch for them, the breathing one themselves, that it totally helps with any stress or anxiety you have. So that's it for today's episode. If you feel anxiety as a developer, try out one of these techniques and let us know in the comments how they work for you. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel and see you in the next episode.